quedamos? Hay que enjuiciar. Casi voy a empezar un nuevo juego, ¿no? No tendría ningún sentido. Y he gastado algunas monedas para conseguir objetos.
¡Viva Killing!
¡Empezamos! Está todo en orden, ¿verdad? Está todo en orden. Sí, está todo en orden, así que vayamos. El quinto juicio. Y el último juicio, por cierto, por lo que ha dicho Monokuma. El estudiante con más suerte, supuestamente. Al principio cuando lo conocí pensaba que era un tío simpático. Yo también, o sea, de verdad que lo pensaba, ¿eh? Vino, era muy sociable. Pero luego su verdadera naturaleza se descubrió y no era nada como lo que creíamos. Él creía más en la esperanza que ninguno. Él pensaba que había... Él decía algo de que había una poderosa esperanza que podía sobrepasar cualquier desesperanza, ¿no? Él decía que incluso la desesperanza podía probar que la esperanza nunca iba a perder contra la desesperanza. Él decía que a él no le importaría ser un peldaño para la esperanza. Su forma de pensar estaba totalmente fuera de toda lógica, como quien dice. Pero él muchas veces nos salvó. Y ahora alguien como él ha sido asesinado. Ha sido su final. Así es como ha acabado. Y no tengo ni idea de quién lo hizo. Uy, siempre me equivoco de botón al final. Nine. Pero no hay forma de que pueda acabar sin saberlo. O todos seremos consumidos por la desesperanza, ¿no? Es por ello por lo que tengo que encontrarlo. La persona que acabó con Nagito. El asesino que mató a Nagito. Todo ello para poder volver esta vida de desesperanza, tenemos que alcanzar la esperanza. O sea, la verdad. Para cambiar esta vida de desesperanza, ¿no? Algo así. Sí, como Monokuma dijo, este es el último juicio. No hay más razón para hacer esto. Así. Este juego riesgoso, como se diga. Este juicio de vida-muerte, perdón. Life threatening es vida-muerte, ¿vale? Este juicio de vida-muerte toda la esperanza y la desesperanza. El último ha empezado, venga, sí. Yo sí quiero grabar, ¡Hala! No tenemos más habilidades, ¿no? Que yo sepa. Tenemos aquí Silver Spoon, que habíamos ganado también. Reduce el daño en esto cuando fallo. Vale, pues joder, todavía somos inmortales. Con estas habilidades somos inmortales ya.
Now then, let's begin. During the class trial, if you vote, I'll punch. Oh my, Monami? You've ascended the ladder of adulthood and reached the moon. Chesto!
Era evidente que le va a hacer eso. Que siga ahí.
One more time.
Otra vez, venga.
Jeez, how about this one?
Otro.
This will be my final.
Ahora. Eso es Jojo, Jojo reference.
It's useless. Please stop. I feel bad. You're right. Now's not the time for the victim. This time is Nagito, who was a who in the world.
If he was killed for trying to reveal the traitor, that traitor is obviously the killer.
Es posible.
No, that might not be it.
Quizá no es así.
Huh? Are you trying to protect the traitor? They didn't call out when we were in danger. Wait. Don't tell me you're the traitor.
Don't say something so stupid. There's no way in hell I'm the traitor.
Now that's...
Vale, uno dice que el traidor puede ser asesino y el otro dice que a lo mejor no es eso. Podrían ser diferentes personas, Va a ser Torture Wounds. Me lo imagino. Para decir que podría ser alguien que no es el traidor simplemente para saber dónde están las bombas.
Killer didn't take Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing him.
The reason Nagito's body was covered with wounds.
It's because the killer tortured Nagito.
Sí,
So
seguramente.
that's why he was so beat up. What were they trying to find out by torturing him? Definitely the bomb's hiding place.
Sí, seguramente.
So, the suspect is whoever found the bomb first.
That was Fuyuhiko.
I found it by coincidence.
Podría ser,
There's no way I'd torture someone.
A ver, vale, ya.
Killer
creo que sí.
didn't
Vamos a
take. I'm
probar lo
telling
que
you,
yo creo.
The reason Nagito's
it's because the killer tortured Nagito.
So
Vamos a
that's
darle la
why.
razón a
What were
Sonia.
they trying to find out by definitely the bomb's hiding place.
Ah, pues no.
Damn it!
The killer didn't take Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing him.
No, es
The
verdad.
reason Nagito's body was covered with wounds.
It's because the killer tortured Nagito.
¿Puede ser esto?
No, that's wrong.
Sí, es verdad, porque ¿para qué le tapas la boca si quieres que hable? No tiene
But
sentido.
Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape, so he wouldn't have been able to confess anything. If he was being tortured for information, they wouldn't have taped his mouth like that.
I'm prepared. I just realized it. It's a trap.
¿Trampa?
Stupid Hajime. You got caught in that trap.
Torture. A ver qué tontería dices.
Like you said, if Nagito's mouth was taped, you obviously assume he couldn't talk, right? But that was the trap. He wanted to hide the fact that he got interrogated.
Interrogated.
But if you tape his mouth shut, how is he supposed to answer anything?
¿Cómo eso es verdad?
Pay attention. This is how it went. First, the killer tortured Nagito and got information about the bomb. Then, after they killed him,
Después de que le matara.
like you said, if Nagito's mouth was taped shut, you obviously assume he couldn't talk, right? But that was the trap.
Ay, que tengo que volver a hacer
He wanted to
esto.
hide the fact that he got interrogated. Like you said, Nagito's... You obviously assume he couldn't talk, right? But that was the trap. He wanted to hide the fact that he got interrogated.
But if you tape his mouth shut, how is he supposed to...
Pay attention. This is how it went down. First, the killer tortured Nagito and got information about the bomb's location.
Duct tape. ¿Dónde está el duct tape?
Then, after the...
Mierda.
Allow me
Ah,
to
pues
cut
sí.
through those words.
Ah, pues sí que era el duct tape, pero era en el otro lado.
No, there's no doubt Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape before he was beat up.
What did you say?
Who cares about the duct tape? Might as well settle this with rock, paper, scissors. We don't need to play a game. It's clear the duct tape was on his mouth before the torture even began.
Why do you always side with Hajime? You have a crush on him or something?
Sí, de hecho es verdad.
You were with us when I peeled the duct
Pero es
tape
que
off
ella es
Nagito's
inteligente.
mouth, right? The blood on Nagito's face wasn't under the duct tape, remember?
The blood on his face came from his arm wounds,
Sí.
which means the duct tape was on his face before his arms were even wounded.
And the duct tape had a lot of crinkles around his mouth. He must have been struggling to open his mouth under the duct tape.
Perhaps the duct tape was used so he wouldn't be able to scream. Then it's like I said at the beginning. The tape wasn't for torture. It was to keep his mouth shut.
However, if they wanted to seal his mouth, they did not need to hurt him with such ferocity.
They
Efectivamente, también.
probably had a deep grudge against Nagito.
También.
Then, are you saying the killer was trying to make him suffer?
Eso parece, ¿eh?
If so, it's friggin' crazy. Did they go psycho or something?
No, they didn't
Totalmente.
just go crazy. Whoever did this must be one crafty bastard. If not, they wouldn't have taken the time to set fire to the crime scene and destroy all the evidence.
Es una locura.
warehouse fire was for destroying evidence?
You can't think of any other reason.
But who could have done that?
When the fire occurred, everyone in this room was gathered in front of the warehouse.
Yeah. And right after I opened the warehouse door, the flames started burning from the very back.
Which means, it is plausible to think that nobody here set the fire.
Sí, pero se hizo para que lo hiciera el mechero. Poquito a
Killer
poco.
isn't one of us. But that's not the case, huh? I mean, it's wishful thinking.
Even if it was only a coincidence, the timing was just too perfect.
Based on the pattern up until now, we should suspect that some kind of setup was used for this.
Some kind of setup? Like what?
I do not know that, but that has been the pattern before.
That's our Miss Sonia. You have such an amazingly... Alrighty then. Let's think about this based on what Miss Sonia...
Vale, vamos a hablar de ello. Me parece correcto.
Damn right it is!
Tenemos oil lighter, ¿no?
The direct cause of the fire was... the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
Sí, yo
The
creo
killer
que sí.
used some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire with the lighter.
Some kind of setup?
Did they use the oil as an improvised fuse?
They probably just threw the lighter.
No.
Based on the shape of that oil lighter, it can stand upright while the
Eso no
flame
lo
is
puedo romper
lit.
de ninguna forma.
If they tipped over the lighter in some way, it could have ignited the curtain.
Some way?
Maybe they used invisible thread.
There should have been a way to tip it over with sound waves.
Or perhaps opening the door caused intense wind pressure to tip over the lighter.
A ver.
The direct cause of the fire was the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
The killer used some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire with the lighter.
Some kind of setup?
Este.
Did they use the oil as an improvised fuse?
They probably just threw the lighter.
Based on the shape of that oil lighter, it can stand upright while the flame is...
If they tipped over the lighter in some way, it could have ignited the curtain.
Some way?
Maybe they used invisible thread.
There should have been a way to tip it over with sound waves.
No,
Or
este.
perhaps opening the door caused...
Ah, pues no es.
The direct cause of the fire was the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
The killer used some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire with the lighter.
Some kind of setup?
Era esto, coño, no lo otro.
Did they use the oil as an improvised fuse?
They probably just threw the lighter.
Based on the shape of that oil lighter, it can stand upright while the flame is lit.
If they tipped over the lighter in some way, it could have ignited the curtain.
Some way?
Maybe they used invisible.
There should have been a way to tip it over with...
Or perhaps opening the door...
Esto era. Es que
I
había
agree with
confundido los
that.
paneles con otra cosa.
I also agree that opening the door is what started the fire.
Just as I thought, it was the wind pressure. A dust devil blown here from glorious Japan!
No, not wind pressure. They probably used the Monokuma panels.
Estaban muy colocados así como en...
A huge number of tipped-over Monokuma
sé cómo se
panels
dice.
were found at the crime scene, right? It looked like they were scattered everywhere, but some were laying on top of each other in a single line. Just a single line leading from the warehouse door to the fire's origin.
Sí.
Does that mean anything?
The killer probably arranged those Monokuma panels to create a domino effect.
Eso, dominó effect.
You mean those
Efecto dominó.
tiles kids play with by lining them up?
In place of those tiles, the killer used the Monokuma panels. So when we opened the warehouse door, the first panel toppled into the second. And from there, they fell like dominoes until they reached the lighter at the end.
Sí.
But wouldn't it be obvious that those big panels were falling over?
That's probably why they turned off the lights in the warehouse, so we wouldn't notice them.
So the reason the warehouse was dark was to hide the domino effect.
And one more thing. There was something else the killer did to hide the domino effect, right?
Algo que ocultó para ocultar el efecto dominó. ¿Qué? Esto. El sonido.
I see.
El sonido, para ocultar el sonido de que caían
You were
las cosas.
talking about the that hymn blaring throughout the warehouse masked the sound of the falling panel.
Claro. Efectivamente.
That's it. So the strange sound was actually the sound of the panels falling.
But those sounds weren't the only strange thing, right?
¿Otra cosa más extraña? ¿Qué más había?
Looking back on it, it was also strange when we opened the door to the warehouse.
Es verdad, estaba como cerrado con llave.
So the door was being blocked by a Monokuma panel.
And when we opened the door, the domino effect started, and the falling panels eventually reached the lighter.
Yeah, and that's how the warehouse caught on fire. At least, that's how it looks.
You don't look
Sí,
so
es como
sure.
parece.
At the
Pero no estoy muy
time,
segura.
Akane mentioned that she could barely open the door.
Because the panel was blocking it, right?
But the blocked doorway, there wasn't enough space for a person to fit through, right?
Is
¿cómo lo
that a
colocó?
problem?
It's a major problem. I mean, that door was the only entrance to the warehouse.
No podía haber. El asesino no se puede haber salido.
If the panel was so close to the door that it could barely be opened, the killer inside the warehouse wouldn't be able to leave.
Now that you mention it.
Does that mean they were hiding inside?
Who? We were all outside the warehouse, you know.
Based on the patterns up until now, I believe some kind of setup was used.
You don't have to think so hard. There's actually only one person who could have possibly done this.
Es verdad. Monokuma.
You don't mean...
Hajime?
Pero como Monokuma no puede ser, tiene que haber sido Nagito.
This is my answer.
El propio Nagito tuvo que hacerlo.
What if it was Nagito?
Why'd you bring him up? He's the victim, you know.
He wasn't just the victim.
Huh?
Not just the victim? What is that?
He was the victim. And he was the perpetrator, too.
Are you saying this was a suicide? Don't be stupid.
Sí.
His
Yo también lo
body
creo,
was
¿eh?
covered in torture wounds. Or did you already forget? Are you saying those were all self-inflicted?
But Nagito might do something like that, don't you think?
Tío, ¿me estás contando en serio esto? ¿Esto va en serio? No me puedo creer que esto vaya en serio. Como se lo haya hecho él mismo, es un puto enfermo, no puede
That's
ser.
not the issue. He was tied up, remember? Even
verdad,
for a
estaba
creep
atado.
like
¿Cómo va a
Nagito, it'd be impossible for him to tie up his own arms and legs.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, as long as you understand.
It seems we need to discuss how Nagito was able to tie himself up.
Need to discuss?
Pero ¿cómo vamos a discutir eso? Es
That's not
imposible.
necessary at all. No matter how much you think about it, it's clearly impossible.
Es que es imposible.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth? Or if you use your front tail?
¿Qué dices, tía?
Dirty joke! Is that a dirty joke?
Es una broma sucia, sí.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth? Or if you use your...
Dirty joke! Is that a dirty joke?
No sé cómo hacerlo, ¿eh?
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
No.
To actually tie up your own arms.
Ah,
No,
sí,
that's
que era
wrong.
ese.
Hold on a sec. Isn't that premise flawed?
What? I mean, it's no mistake that his arms and legs were...
No, it shouldn't have been both of his arms. The rope on his right arm was completely burnt up. Based on that, you can't say he was tied up.
¿Verdad? Está quemada.
That was just
y
burned by the fire.
los
He
aspersores no
should have been
llegaban
tied
hasta
up
allí, o
before
sea que
that.
no se ha apagado por eso.
It burned because of the fire. Like you said, it might look like that, but that was part of the trap. There's concrete evidence that proves it.
Sí. ¿Qué es esto? No. No sé cuál es. Tiene que ser la última entonces. El mechero. Si no es el mechero ni es lo otro, ¿qué es, tío?
I see.
Su manga derecha. ¿Qué tenía la manga derecha? No me acuerdo de la
Take
manga
a
derecha.
close look. Even though the rope was burnt up, his sleeve wasn't burned at all. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay.
A burn like this, no matter how you think about it, is unnatural.
Sí.
That rope was burned in advance so it would look like it was burned in the fire.
Then Nagito's right arm wasn't tied up, right?
Yeah, that should be the case.
Hajime, that's awesome! I'll let you cop a feel if you want.
Akane, you should not give it away for free.
Akane me está tirando mucho los trastos, ¿eh?
That's definitely wrong.
Y eso también está mal.
Fine. I just gotta get a Benjamin from him before I let him touch me, right?
That's not what I meant. I'm talking about Nagito. I mean, even if his right hand wasn't tied up, the knife was still stabbed into it, you know.
It's impossible to stab a knife into your right hand with your right hand.
Ah, that...
No,
Hajime,
mentira.
you tricked me! Give me back that Benjamin!
Hold on. There should be a way.
Then hurry up and spill it.
If it's something lame, I'll make you give back the Benjamin with 10,000% interest.
Yo creo que agarró el cuchillo y hizo así. Y por eso esto tiene sangre por todos lados, menos por donde tendría que tenerlo. Yo creo que es eso, ¿eh?
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
If he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way?
Yo creo que sí.
Is he a throwing knife expert?
Loop o hinder.
Maybe he propped the knife somehow?
Yo creo que es este.
And slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped,
He could have used his bound left hand.
His bone left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily. We don't know if his left hand could even reach his right hand. Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with...
if he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall,
No, no es
could he stab his hand that way?
No.
Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow? And slammed his right hand down on it?
Yo creo que es esto.
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped the knife,
He could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily. We don't know if his left hand could even reach his right hand.
Yo creo que lo decía aquí con eso. Pero no, esta es la mano derecha. ¿No?
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
if he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way? Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow?
Ah, pues no.
It's wrong? Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand
If he threw the knife into the air
And let the knife fall, could he stab his
his hand that way?
Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife and slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped, he could have used
His bound left hand.
Ay, coño, no. Quería darle el consentimiento, no. Perdón. La cagué ahí.
Even if
Totalmente.
Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with...
If he threw the knife
Knife into the air.
and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way? Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow and slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped,
He could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily. We don't know if his left hand could even reach his right hand.
No sé.
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with...
if he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way? Is
¿No
he a
puedo dar
throwing
consentimiento
knife
con esto
expert?
a Chiaki? ¿En serio?
Maybe he propped the knife somehow?
No. Vamos a probar el otro.
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand...
If he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall,
No.
could he stab his hand that way? Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife and slammed his right hand down on it? Propped it up. If he just propped,
He could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily.
Tampoco, tío.
Damn it!
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
if he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way? Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow and slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped the knife,
He could have used his bound left hand.
Me queda el último.
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand?
if he threw the knife into the and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way? Is he a throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow and slammed his right hand down on it? Propped it on. If he just propped,
He could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily.
Tampoco.
Damn it!
¿Cuál puede ser?
Even if Nagito's right hand was free,
Bueno, coma plus y no puede ser.
how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
if he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall,
No, pero tampoco.
could he stab his hand that way?
Esto tampoco. Tortura igual
Is he a
tampoco.
throwing knife expert? Maybe he propped the knife somehow?
I agree with
¿Serio?
that.
¿Es esto? ¿Con el peluche?
the life-size Monokuma plushie. He must have used that to prop the knife.
Makes sense. That's why there was a big hole in the plushie's stomach. He inserted the knife handle into that hole to prop it up. Then he slammed his hand onto it. If that's it, he had to place the plushie near him. And it also explains the mysterious blood on the plushie.
So the blood on the plushie came from Nagito after he stabbed the knife into his own right hand.
I see. So that's the trick.
But for a moment, I seriously thought Monokuma died or something.
A bleeding plushie is super scary.
After stabbing his hand, he no longer needed the plushie, so he cast it off toward the fire's origin.
He probably thought the fire would incinerate it and destroy the evidence.
So what do you think now, Fuyuhiko?
I get what you're saying about the wound on his right hand, but there's still one huge problem.
A ver, puede ser otro problema.
The spear. Basically, you're saying Nagito committed suicide by impaling himself with a spear, right? If you think about the order, getting killed by the spear should have been the last thing to happen to Nagito. If that's true, how is that possible? He can't grab a spear with his right hand if a knife is stabbed into it and his left hand was all tied up.
Then he probably took the spear first, and as he endured the pain, he stabbed the knife into his right hand.
There is a limit to his constitution. If you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
No sé.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
Like I said, if you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
Kazuichi, de verdad.
Say it one more time. I need you recorded.
Kazuichi, de verdad.
Better cut it.
Like she said,
Kazuichi,
in that
de
condition,
verdad.
it's very difficult to stab yourself. It'd be hard to use a spear with a knife stabbed into your right hand while your left hand is tied up.
Es verdad.
So you're saying it's impossible?
But no matter what I think, I can't believe Nagito's death was caused by someone else.
I also agree with that. To think that one of us could kill someone with such cruelty, I could never believe that.
You say you can't believe it? You just don't want to believe it, right? That's why you keep getting betrayed over and over again, right? Same goes.
Just shut your mouth. It's against. If you even think about doing anything, I have a plan of my own.
But it's just as Monokuma said. This might also be the same. Calling this...
Then are you saying there is a killer among us, Kazuichi?
Of course that doesn't include...
Dice, por supuesto que no hay alguien, un asesino entre nosotros. O sea, si hay un asesino, pero que no es ni Sonia
As
ni él.
Kazuichi said, it's true we've been constantly betrayed. But even if I'm betrayed again, I still want to believe in everyone. No matter how many times I may be betrayed, I still want to believe in everyone.
I also want to believe that there's no killer. But suicide is unimaginable.
Do you really think so?
But you said it too. It'd be impossible for him to stab himself with a spear in his condition.
I did say difficult, but I never said impossible. I feel that there's some way he could have stabbed himself with that spear.
Yo también lo creo, porque arriba en el techo había una marca muy recta y yo creo que es de haber atado el cable o algo así y haber resultado haber hecho así la lanza y haber caído.
What?
I don't know.
You don't know.
It's impossible to figure out by my... That's how. We made it this far up till now.
Everyone. We're...
All right, let's...
Venga, lo vamos a averiguar. Yo sé que lo vamos a averiguar. No creo que sea ninguna de esas.
How did Nagito stab himself with a spear? Let's work together and think this through.
When the spear stabbed Nagito, his right hand was covered by the knife, right?
He was only able to move his left hand.
But his left hand was also tied up.
Then that rules out his left hand. If that's the case, the only other way is...
He used his teeth? Or maybe he used his front tail? Idle guys have tails that get hard when they're grabbed.
What are you saying?
A blushing Miss Sonia is freaking awesome!
De verdad, ¿qué le ha pasado al juego? De repente se ha puesto un juego así como erótico. Bueno, exagerado decir erótico, pero muy salido de tono. A ver, va a ser la sangre de la mano izquierda, seguro.
Let's work together and think this through. When the spear stabbed Nagito, his right hand was covered by the knife, right?
He was only able to move his left hand.
But his left hand was also tied up.
Then that rules out his left hand.
No, that's wrong.
Porque entonces no tendría sangre en esa mano. Y sí la tiene.
Hold on. It's still too early to dismiss the possibility that he used his left hand.
Why? I mean, his left hand was tied up, you know.
But there was something off about his left hand. The bloodstain on the palm of his hand. Don't you think it looked somewhat strange? He only had blood on the lower area of his palm. Beyond that point, the bloodstain suddenly cuts off.
When the blood splattered, that's as far as it reached, right?
That settles the description of that bloodstain. But it's not the only unnatural bloodstain. Look, there's blood on the back of his hand, around the middle joints of his fingers.
Like you said, it looks like an unnatural bloodstain, but what's wrong with that?
We might need to think and use our imaginations for a bit.
Estaba agarrando algo mientras sangraba. Seguro.
If there's blood on his palm and the back of his hand, what was his left hand doing as the blood splattered?
Creepy.
I see.
Estaba sujetando algo.
When the blood splattered, he was probably gripping with his left hand. That's why there's such a strange-looking bloodstain.
Was he grabbing his front tail?
¿Verdad, Kane? ¿Por qué estás tan obsesionada con eso?
Perish the thought! He was obviously grabbing the spear!
Now that you mention it, compared to the rest of his body, the wounds on his left arm are pretty mild. He probably made his wounds mild on purpose, so he could keep his strength while he gripped the spear.
But even if he held the spear with his tied-up left hand, it'd be impossible for him to stab himself.
Hey, Chiaki, what do you think? Hey, don't tell me you're getting sleep.
Chiaki, por Dios, ¿eh?
At times like this, you should always strike from a good angle. Just like fixing an old TV.
Oh, I got it. Maybe. Yeah, like I thought. It's no mistake that Nagito was gripping the spear. However, what's important is what section of the spear he was gripping.
Estaba cogiendo la cuerda. Esto.
I see!
That's it. Instead of the handle, Nagito must have been holding on to the cord. There was a metal weight at the tip of the cord, but there were bloodstains on that part. Plus, the joint between the weight and the cord had a bloodstain shaped like it was cut off by something.
Isn't the size of that cut-off section about the same size as a human fist?
Ah, you're right. So this is the part Nagito was gripping, huh? And then the blood that was supposed to end up here ended up getting on Nagito's left hand.
But why is it so important to know which part of the spear he was...
You're not gonna say he gripped the tip of the cord, swung the spear around, and stabbed himself, right?
That is where the clue to solve this mystery resides, right?
Estaba enganchada en el techo y estaba sujetándola. En el momento que la soltó, cayó. Y ya está, tío. No hay más. Ay, madre, que no consigo ahora.
I am sorry. Of course this...
Guardo cada 2x3 porque no me acuerdo cuándo he guardado.
It seems we are stuck.
At a time like that, how about we stick to the plan to think one step at a time instead of expecting the answers all at once?
That's a long plan.
One step at a time.
Let's focus on the spear first. Namely, where it was and how it was positioned just before it impaled Nagito.
Exactamente. Tiene que haber caído del techo. Dive. Venga, vamos. Salta, venga, velocidad. Ole, ole. Ole, uy, que me choco. La madre que te trajo. Checkpoint. La madre que te trajo. Turbo salto. Checkpoint. Y pregunta. Above. Encima de Nagito. ¡Vamos, vamos! Está claro que tenía que estar encima de Nagito porque ha caído encima de él. Checkpoint. ¿Qué es eso? Ojo, quería coger los turbos y lo he hecho al revés. ¿Dónde vas tú? Que tú a mí no me das. Checkpoint. Uy. ¿A dónde vas? Turbo. Uf. Checkpoint. Y pregunta. Ya está. El Sailing Girder este. Que seguramente sea la mierda donde hemos visto la mancha de sangre. Efectivamente. Checkpoint. Uy. Te vas tú. Checkpoint. Hijo puta. Se me ha dado en todo, Se me ha dado en toda mi jeta. Vamos, salto. Turbo salto. Checkpoint. Y pregunta. El core. El core está claro que es el core. Ya está, ya lo hemos conseguido. Eso era todo. ¡Turbo!
It's all coming together.
Ha sido fácil ha sido fácil.
The spear impaled Nagito as he was laying face up.
Perpendicular encima de él, estéticamente.
If Nagito did that all by himself, did he have some sort of ESP?
That'd be awesome, but he probably used the ceiling girder directly above him.
Nagito probably slung the cord over the ceiling girder, and using that he hoisted the spear directly above him.
Para levantarla.
And if Nagito let go of the cord, the spear would have fallen and impaled him while he was laying face up.
I noticed a slight red streak on the ceiling girder. It probably got smeared there during the setup.
The blood on the cord probably rubbed off on the ceiling girder as the spear was falling. So, how about it? Using this method, Nagito could have impaled himself with the spear.
He really committed suicide? Like that?
He probably chose that spear so he could commit suicide like that.
O sea, yo no entiendo este pavo, ¿por qué se suicidó?
If someone else did this, there's no reason they go to all this trouble just to kill someone with a spear.
I agree. When I was investigating this case, I kept thinking over and over how strange it was. Why did the killer use the knife and the spear so differently?
So you're saying he needed to use that spear to pull off his trick?
Then this is for real? He really committed suicide? Every single wound on his body. That was all him?
Not just that. He did all that while he was gripping the spear?
Es verdad, se hizo todo eso mientras estaba sujetando lo
That
otro.
spear should not have stabbed Nagito until the very end. Which means Nagito wounded himself while...
Did he put the duct tape on his mouth, too?
He probably covered his own mouth so we wouldn't hear him screaming in pain.
Did he need to go that far? That's beyond crazy. Why would he do that to himself?
He was probably trying to get us to make a mistake. By committing a suicide that looked like a murder, he was trying to steer us toward the wrong answer. His goal was to get us all executed.
And that's why he stabbed himself over and over?
Did he want us to die that bad?
That's messed up. That's seriously so...
Está enfermo.
That's our Nagito.
Es que está muy enfermo. Bueno, ya no. Ya no está tan enfermo, ahora está muerto.
However, there is one thing I still do not understand. He said he would reveal the traitor, right? Whatever became of that?
He was probably planning to kill the traitor along with the rest of us.
So why did he not just do that in the first place? If he had no qualms with killing everyone, he did not have to cause a bomb scare to reveal the traitor.
I bet the bomb scare was part of the strategy behind this trip. He made us split up and search for a bomb so none of us would have an alibi. He created a scenario where any of us could have killed him.
He tried to make us doubt each other. It tried to hide the truth behind his suicide.
Did he cause a bomb scare for that reason alone?
He's a fucking bastard who killed himself for his delusions of grandeur. It's not that unthinkable.
You are right, I suppose.
Yeah, it appears we've come to a conclusion.
No, pero a mí tampoco me cuadra, ¿eh? Lo que ha dicho Sonia me parece con mucho sentido.
Bastard Nagito committed suicide. It was all done by him, so we'd be
That should be okay, right?
What? You're not satisfied yet?
No, I agree that Nagito killed himself, but I feel like there's something that doesn't make sense. It's probably just my imagination.
Es lo que no tiene sentido.
So what are you gonna do? Is it okay to proceed with the voting time?
What do you think, Akane?
Well, there's no doubt Nagito's death was a suicide. Oh well, I guess my gut is wrong sometimes.
You are right. It is not as though we can draw any other conclusion.
Then it's okay to end it here. That means we're done with this last class trial and we can leave this island, right? It's okay to reach such a happy ending, right?
Then it's okay? It's okay to say, you've decided on the killer? Understood. Then voting time.
No. Hold on.
Aquí hay algo que no cuadra del todo todavía.
Sorry, just a little more. I want you guys to wait just a little more. I can't help but feel like there's still something we overlooked.
Sí,
Like
hay
who
algo
the
que no hemos
traitor
visto
is?
But the issue here is who killed Nagito, right? Even if we identify the traitor, the conclusion won't change.
That's true, but...
The mystery isn't just about who the traitor is. No matter how you look at it, Nagito's death is a suicide. I'm a little worried, you know? I'm worried about starting the voting time while there's still a mystery.
Hey, what do you mean it's not about who the traitor is? What kind of mystery is left?
There's just one thing that doesn't make sense, and it relates to Nagito's death. Plus, it's something even Nagito couldn't influence. He couldn't even tamper with the evidence for it.
¿Qué es, tío? A ver, un momento. No. Hay algo que no cuadra.
You're gonna keep going?
Hay algo que no cuadra, pero ¿por qué tenía tantas cosas Nagito en su cuarto sin que... ¿Todo esto? Tengo que elegir algo. Algo en lo que Nagito ni siquiera podía haber influido. ¿Esto?
Crap!
No. Algo relacionado con la muerte de Nagito, en la que no puede haber influido ni siquiera él. ¿Será lo de las laceraciones en el brazo izquierdo?
I see.
¿Será eso? ¿Será esto de las heridas de aquí?
Is it about the Monokuma file?
Yeah, that's it.
Huh? There was something suspicious in the Monokuma file?
Sí. ¿Ves esto? Laceration of his left arm. Laceration left arm. Sí, lo sé, si lo pone. Voy a tener que... No es eso tampoco. No sé lo que es, Cut. ¿Puede ser cut? No. C. K. Causa de la muerte. Tía, hay demasiadas. Mierda. Quería juntarla con otra cosa y me he equivocado. Uy. Cause of death. Mierda, la D. Estaba ahí la D, la que... Tío, es que hay demasiadas palabras. ¿La E dónde está, tío? No hay ni una E. Aquí. Ahora necesito una A. Mierda. Ya, joder, lo que ha costado, macho. Demasiadas letras por todos lados. Causa de la muerte. Pues no era lo de la laceración. Era la causa de la muerte.
In this particular case's Monokuma file, there's no specific cause of death.
Isn't that weird? Until now, the files always specify the cause of death is obvious.
Dice que es obvio, pero no.
The spear in Nagito's stomach. It is obvious just by...
No.
Maybe it's not included if it's not important enough to write about.
Well, Monokuma,
I plead the fifth!
There he goes again! I'm so appalled that I have nothing to say.
But even during Gundam's case, and before during Mika, the thing he purposely omitted from the Monokuma file was always the most important mystery.
I see. That applies this time too?
Hold on a sec. Then, are you saying there's more to Nagito's death? Are you suggesting, again, that his death wasn't a suicide?
You guys were the ones who said it was a
No, I don't think it's a mistake to call Nagito's death a suicide, but it's not just a suicide. Come to think of it, did Nagito really commit suicide just to get us all killed?
are you sticking up for him?
That's not what I meant. I mean it in a bad sense.
Bad sense?
I just remembered that his malice always defied our expectations, and that concerns me. For example, would that malice just end here?
Huh?
Did Nagito's malice drive him to risk his life for a truth we'd reach this easily? I mean, this is Nagito we're talking about, you know?
How interesting! You sure do believe in Nagito, huh? Because you believe in his malice, you continue to suspect his malice. I see. I guess that's what passes for friendship these days.
What friendship?
What should we do, you guys? Should we proceed with the vote? I think we should keep going until everyone is satisfied. Even if it's just to be safe.
You're right. We only get one chance to vote after all.
Just to be safe, huh? Guess I have no choice.
This is friggin' annoying. But if you guys say you're doing it, there's no way I'm gonna back out.
Hey, Monokuma! You heard us. The voting's gonna have to...
We've come this far. Let's work hard till the very... That's what I believe.
Oh, splendid. You guys are so splendid right now. That's right. If all your hopes are united, no despair can shake you.
Esta situación es lo que quería Nagito, ¿no? En todo momento. Va a haber aquí un break. Sí. Lo vamos a dejar aquí.
No, no!
Están peleando simplemente.
I'm Monami. Anyway, everyone is united. That's why I will fight the only way I can. That's basic.
Que va a ser como nosotros.
So if we're working
Aquí lo
together,
dejamos.
where do we start?
Aquí lo dejamos. Lo dejamos aquí. Ya continuaremos en algún otro momento este juicio. ¿Cuándo será? El tiempo lo dirá. Chao, pescado.